Today we're going to be looking at camera basics, including ISO, shutter speed and aperture. These are three vital components in photography that help alter the exposure and brightness of your images. When set correctly, they can make an image, but when not, it could lead to images being too bright or too dark, too blurry or too grainy. To understand how to use them together, you need to know how each element works individually. So let's get started. ISO. ISO, aka the International Organization for Standardization, refers to the light sensitivity of the image sensor or camera film. As Peter McKinnon put it, it's essentially fake light. When you increase the ISO number, you're essentially making your camera more sensitive to light, which in turn brightens your image. It's a useful tool in environments that are low in light. However, the higher the ISO, the higher the amount of grain and noise in your photo, so be aware of that. A top tip of mine is to try and shoot in the lowest possible ISO, so when it comes to editing, your image is as sharp and clear as it could be. Shutter speed. Shutter speed refers to the length of time your camera shutter is open for. Shutters that are under 1 second are typically measured in fractions of a second. For example, a quarter shutter is open for a quarter of a second. Shutters that are over 1 second, on the other hand, are measured in seconds. For example, a shutter open for 2 seconds is open for 2 whole seconds. You get the idea. Short and fast shutters are used for things like motion freeze in an image, or capturing detail in high exposed environments. Long and slow shutters are the opposite, and used for things like motion blurs in an image, or capturing detail in low exposed environments. A top tip of mine is that I would recommend using a wireless remote for taking photos using longer shutters. This is because any slight movement will blur an image. So for night shots up at the sky, for example, try to keep movement of the camera to a minimum. Aperture. Aperture is arguably the most important element of the three. Aperture refers to the hole within a lens where light travels into the camera body from, that alters the amount of light that reaches the camera sensor. These are identified by f-stops, which are a way of identifying the size of the aperture and how open or closed the blades are for a particular photo. A large aperture has a wider opening, allowing more light to pass through and expose your image. These images also have a more shallow depth of field, causing the background to be blurred. A small aperture has a smaller opening, allowing less light to pass through, so making an image darker. These images have a more deep depth of field, causing both the foreground and the background to be sharpened. Always remember that large apertures have small f-stops, whereas small apertures have large f-stops. Now let's understand how they all work together and the different relationships they have. These next photos are key, so pause the video, take some notes, screenshot, you do whatever, just remember these. The exposure triangle is a good representation of what happens to each element as you increase or decrease their value. I'll leave you with this image, but thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more.